All right, welcome back to another episode of Aligned as Fuck. Today I'm joined by Michael Dash, who is an entrepreneur, best-selling author of Chasing the High. He's a recovering addict, community leader, speaker, and philanthropist. So after a 6-year lawsuit with a former business partner, he sold his recruiting company of 11 years in 2018. And having been disconnected from his soul's purpose and passion, Michael started attending both business and personal development retreats, first embracing their impact on him and then studying the power that they have on others. Having experienced over 20 retreats over 4 continents, Michael knew his life's work was helping leaders reconnect with themselves and their mission. He started the Live Life Activated retreats in 2019, bringing in world expert facilitators who impacted his transformation to create a game-changing experience for others. So welcome, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Martina. That was an amazing introduction. You wrote that yourself?
I did. Yeah, that was all me. Yeah, cool. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your story and kind of why you do what you do today.
Sure. Well, first off, I love the title of the show, Aligned as Fuck. That's I consider myself an alignment expert, and based on a lot of things that happened in my life, it led me to kind of looking at what I was doing with all my time. So I'll get back to that. But I'll tell a quick story that kind of gives an idea of why alignment is such a big and important thing to me. I was in my office running a staffing and recruiting company with 40 employees. Every day I would walk in the morning and pull open the drawer to my desk and grab an Adderall. And I would pop an Adderall and I would be off to the races. I would have an Adderall, I would have a coffee every single morning. And one day, it was 2016, I came in, I remember it clear as day, it was like a rainy day outside in the morning. I opened up the drawer and there were no Adderall left. And I started freaking out because at that point, I hadn't worked a day in like 7 years without Adderall. And I called the doctor and scheduled an appointment to get a refill, but nobody answered. I left a message. 9 o'clock came, 10 o'clock came, 11 o'clock came. They hadn't called me back. So panicked, I got in my car and I drove to the doctor's office. And I got in line and I was like, there's a whole line of people. And I was like counting the people down. I'm like, all right, there's 4 people in front of me, 3 people, 2 people. I'm like, I got to see this, I got to get my prescription. Like I was freaking out. And they told me the doctor wasn't in. He was out for like 2 weeks and I couldn't get my prescription filled for like 2 weeks. So I went down to my car, dejected, like upset, like my heart was racing. Like, how am I going to get through 2 weeks without Adderall? And I was going through my phone book looking, who can I call, like that I can get some Adderall on the streets from? And nobody was coming to mind. And I just sat there in my car and I realized, man, like I'm addicted to Adderall. Like I'm addicted to this stuff. And it was like a big moment because I was in denial at how much Adderall was impacting me. And so I went back to my office and I knew I couldn't get a prescription for a couple of weeks. And I just kept going about my day and everything. And about 3 days in, a couple of my employees came to me and they said, hey, is everything okay? And I'm like, what do you mean? Is everything okay? They're like, yeah, over the last 3 days, you've like really changed. You're like much more empathetic. You're really supporting us. We really appreciate it, whatever's happening. And I was like, holy shit, like this is what this drug has been doing to me. It's been like turning me into a person I'm not and suppressing my emotions and like just not showing any emotion because like I'm just so focused on getting shit done. So that's when I knew like, holy shit, like how have I been behaving? How have I been showing up for the last like, I don't know, 7 years I was doing this job. And that's when one day I decided to start writing everything down of how I was spending my days. What was I doing? Every single thing I wrote down and how much time was I putting towards it? And then I drew this like pie chart and I realized that like, wow, I'm wasting so much time doing these different things. And then I started assessing how each activity, how much is that aligned with me and with what I'm trying to accomplish. And I kind of came up with this alignment assessment test that everybody can take and find what their true alignment score is. And mine was a 6.5 at the time. And like, who wants to live a 6.5 life? So I kind of created this little self check-in that you can bring awareness to actually where you're spending your time and shift out of these lower vibrational activities to activities that are really going to allow you to create your vision and your mission in life. Wow, that was a long introduction.
Wow. Yeah. And thank you so much for sharing that. That is really, really powerful. That's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah. And so it really sounds like, when you sat down to be honest with yourself, that's when you could really start to make a change in your life.
Yeah, I mean, when I had some self-recognition,
Mm,
it's so easy to like just do something and then move on to something else and move on to something else, move on to something else, and not even like take inventory of what you're doing. I
mm,
realized that, and I do this every quarter for myself. And I realized that I was spending a lot of time on to do things, like things you put on a list and check off, but they weren't advancing anything I was actually trying to accomplish. So immediately then I was able to either stop focusing my time on it or delegate it to somebody.
amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you can kind of be more productive to what really matters to you in your life, which I would imagine leads to more feelings of fulfillment as well.
Yeah. I mean, if we're focused on tasks that aren't really advancing us, and we have an opportunity to look at that from a macro perspective, then it can really shift like how we approach our day, how we approach what's important, what priority is. It can really affect all those things. And too often people aren't focused on these things. They're just like writing lists together to get shit done, which is half of it's not even that important. And it can be done 2 weeks from today.
Mm,
So yeah, it's super important if we want to be efficient and potent with what we're trying to, with our time and what we're trying to create in this world, that we're aware of how we are spending this time and different things we can do to make giant steps in where we're trying to get.
absolutely. That makes sense. Yeah. So then coming to that point of like understanding what are we trying to accomplish in this life? This is a big part of, I think, what you help people with through retreats as well, right? Living with more kind of purpose in their life. So that's a really big piece of it too, because if we don't really know what we're doing or what our goal really is, then how are we going to know how to spend our time best?
Yeah, 100%. And it's, if when purpose meets action, that's fulfillment. That's alignment, I should say. When purpose meets action, that's alignment. So knowing what your purpose is extremely important to align your actions to get to where your vision or your mission might be. And at the Live Life Activated Retreat, we do a lot of kind of re-examining what our vision and mission is in our professional lives, but also in our personal life and our family life. That's super important. A lot of times we're not like setting any objectives of what we want to accomplish with our family or with our self, right? So for instance, if you want to spend more time with your family, you have to actually focus and create the time and schedule it and take initiative and do all these things. And if you want to spend less time, well, that's a lot easier. Avoid. No, I don't suggest avoiding. But you know what I'm saying. So Yeah, it takes, so we look at these things and then we have this like habit tracker we developed that we give people on their phones. And they can create their own habits and then track the habits every day. And they can see their trends, and what's working, what's not. And it's really supportive, when you're trying to progress and reach a certain goal.
That's awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. Because I think that so often, like if we're not being aware of these things, we end up just living on autopilot. We might not even know like what a clear goal that we have is. Or we might say that we want something, but when we look at it, our actions are not really reflecting anything to do with that goal. So I think that's super powerful to just have that awareness, first of all, and then to be honest with yourself and really, track what you're spending your time actually doing in a day.
Yeah, I can certainly resonate to the autopilot comment. I'm sure a lot of people in your audience probably could too, where you're just like waking up, it's like Groundhog Day, and you're like performing the same task. All right, this task's a little different than this one, but it's really all the same stuff over and over and over. And you fall into like a trap where you believe this is the way everybody lives.
Hmm.
You just keep doing it. You're like, well, this is life. It's just how life is. And that's the lie that they're telling us. That is not how life is. That's what they try to trap you in. But life is a whole creation in itself. And you can easily take a step out of that matrix and see and open limitless possibilities.
Yes, I love this so much. This like activates me for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I love that because I don't want to just like live a normal life. That does not excite me. I want to do
Yeah.
things differently. I want to make my own rules. I want to create my own life and yeah, do things without limits, like you said. So that's yeah, super powerful.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means, normal life. It's like,
Mm.
no, that's not normal, actually. Just like following orders is not normal. Like being told this is what you can and can't do, that's not like, I don't know what's normal about that. Yeah, I understand you have to have you have to have rules, right? I get it. I'm not saying anything to the contrary, but when you believe that this is like all there is, then you've lost like hope, possibility.
Absolutely. Okay. And you said the word believe. I want to kind of zoom in on that word there because I think that's super powerful as well. Our beliefs are really shaping our reality. And our beliefs are really because it's shaping like how we spend our time, coming back to those daily habits. And this can all happen on autopilot if we're not aware of it. Most of our beliefs are subconscious. And a belief fuels a thought, which fuels a feeling, which leads to an action, which creates our results in life. Because all these little daily actions that we're taking lead up to our entire life, right? So I think it's super important to look at those beliefs that we have. And do you have any suggestions on, where we can begin to look at those and maybe change those to reflect an aligned life?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look at beliefs like values.
Mm.
So in order to understand what beliefs you have to understand your value system and what actually is your highest value, not what you think is your highest value, but what your actions say your highest value is. Because when I went through this exercise, and this is again some of the work that we do, when I went through this exercise, I realized that my health, which I said was number one, is actually not number one based on my actions. Because I tend to stay out later at night because I yearn connection and community. And it's actually those values are higher than health for me based on how I'm showing up day to day. Not based on what I want, what I'm telling myself in my mind, but based on like when I do the alignment assessment, when I see how much time I'm spending there, when I realize I'm not sleeping at the same time every day so I can get my rhythms on point, and I'm eating after 8 p.m. So obviously these things are more important. and they're higher in my value system. So it's really important to be honest with yourself, to really match up, not what your mind tells you, but what your actions show you.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. And then how do you feel about, maybe we have different seasons where we have different priorities for a certain amount of time? Like, can that kind of shift throughout the year, maybe?
Yeah, no, I agree. There are definitely seasons. Sometimes if you're dating, for instance, you come out of a long-term relationship and, you want some time to yourself.
Hmm.
I imagine, right? Not everybody, but I imagine. I've wanted time to myself. And, that's a season where I'm not dating, right? Taking a
Hmm.
few months, we're looking inside. So that's an example in dating, but I also believe in building also. There's certain times to build,
Hmm.
and then there's certain times to kind of tweak things, right? To kind of do a QA on things, right? Quality control on what you're doing. And then there's times to build. So yeah, it just depends how you've set up your business. I think partially. It also depends on how sensitive you are to other outside let's say outside opportunities or outside interests. And how you manage your energy. Super important.
Mm.
So yeah, like right now it's a busy time for me because I have a retreat coming up and I'm filling the retreat, and then I'm doing this big race next month, and then after that I'm going to another conference. So for me it's like busy time, but for some people it's a summer, it's like chill out, they're
Mm.
gonna chillax.
Yeah,
Who doesn't chillax?
totally. I hear you. Yeah,
Right.
that's cool. Okay. So you talked about like how we manage our energy. Can we talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. I just needed a sip of water so I can manage mine. Um,
Awesome.
so yeah, I think what I've come to realize is that I'm like a reformed people pleaser.
Mm.
And I generally am very amicable. And if somebody wants to meet with me, I usually say, okay, yeah, we'll grab coffee. And then I realize I'm like giving them a free 2 hour coaching session. And I'm like, wait, what just happened with the last 2 hours of my life? Right.
Mm.
And I like to be generous with my time and everything. And sometimes I was generous to my own detriment, to the
Mm.
point where I was just exhausted because I'm like talking to one person after another. And if you really knew me, you would know I don't have superficial conversations. They're deep conversations, or we don't have them.
Mhm.
Or it's just like I don't have time for superficial
Mhm.
conversations in my life anymore. So yeah, so based on that, we really dive in deep. And remind me the question again. I got thrown off track for a second. I don't even, sometimes you get off on a tangent and I'm like, wait, what the hell am I talking about?
I hear you. It's okay. I do it all the time. Yeah.
Uh,
So my question was about like managing.
energy.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. That's why I was on Adderall in the first place. Right? Thankfully not anymore. Yeah, so the examples that I was giving about giving our energy to me giving my energy to all these different people and having these deep conversations and everything, I realized how burnt out I was, how exhausted I was. And like the next day, I wouldn't have the right energy to be focused and get done what I need to. So it's super important. Again, this is about being aware. We have to be aware. Everything we're talking about here is awareness, self-recognition, and consciousness.
Mhm.
We have to be super tuned into it and be tracking it so we can manage it.
Awesome.
So yeah, once I realized that, I was like, all right, look, I cannot just meet with everybody who wants to meet. I should ask them what they want to meet about before we meet, and then determine if I have the energy for it or not. If it's a take situation, then that's not something I'm okay with, right?
Mhm.
And that's where boundaries come in. So
Mm,
now I'm able to manage it, knowing that I went through that. Now I'm able to manage my energy a lot more and
amazing.
a lot more efficient and kind of decide where I'm putting my energy. So I have enough energy to focus on my larger mission in life.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And I think that that's a really important conversation is, just talking about the people pleasing tendencies that a lot of us seem to have, and then setting boundaries to protect our energy because, yeah, otherwise we're going to get burnt out. And that's something that we see so often.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so much. I've been there.
Absolutely. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's why I put my health as such a priority. And I would say that like I'm a pretty sensitive person, so if I slack off on any of my health habits, like I literally cannot perform. I cannot show up. I cannot have a conversation with somebody. So for me, my health is so important, and that's a big part of me protecting my energy because we can't pour from an empty cup. We can't give from an empty cup, right? So we have to really fill our own cup first, and then I believe that we'll have enough energy to do the things that are important to us in life.
I couldn't agree more. 100%.
Mhm. So, can you share a little bit more about your journey? You mentioned that you were addicted to Adderall, and now you're, running retreats around the world, which is really cool. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more about kind of what that journey looked like.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I was addicted I had a gambling addiction for 20 years. I had a 10-year cocaine addiction, a 7-year Adderall addiction, and a 6-year GHB addiction, and throw marijuana in there as well. But I never considered that an addiction because, it's marijuana, it's fine. And it was through a lot of work of hitting multiple rock bottoms and everything to shift out of that. I started with gambling by going to Gamblers Anonymous, and it was the first self-development work I ever did. Even though I didn't know I was doing self-development work, I really was. And that gave me a baseline of knowledge to take with me for the rest of my life. So when I had these other drug challenges, I didn't have to go back there. I just knew what I needed to do to stop them. And it was just different events in my life that led to that. And in 2016, I was at the time very addicted to Adderall and GHB and popping pills, whether it was oxys or whatever it was. And I was in the 5th year of a 6-year lawsuit with my ex-business partner. I felt trapped in the very company and life that I built. And I was like, I can't get out of this. Like, I don't want to run this company anymore. I don't want to be in this lawsuit anymore. I don't want to do any of this anymore. And so I was at a very, very low point, and I saw there was this event in Bali on the Entrepreneur Group's Facebook page that I'm a part of. And I didn't really know what it was, but I just wanted to go to Bali. And I have an office in India, so I could go see to my office and then go to Bali. So that's what I did. And I found myself at this retreat. And in the retreat, there were 2 people talking about flow consciousness and being able to manifest your dreams and all the synchronicities in your life and all this stuff. And like I am a guy from New Jersey, so we don't really use these type of words in New Jersey. We don't really, it's let's just say spiritually, New Jersey isn't on the top of the list of states in the US. So when I heard these words, I kind of called bullshit on them. And I said, look, this is nonsense, right? There's no such thing as manifestation. Like if you work hard, good shit will happen to you. That's manifestation. And I'm like, if you run into somebody and oh my God, you hadn't seen him in so long and you were just talking about him the other day, that's called a coincidence. Okay. That's not synchronicity. Please, it doesn't have to have some spiritual thing. This is ridiculous. And they're like, okay, why don't you talk to us after we're done speaking? So I'm like, fine. So I talked to them, and they have this company called Flow Consciousness Institute and offer this like 10-week course to deeply lean into your intuitive guide. And so I'm like, all right, screw it. I was so miserable at the time. I'm like, I'll go. So I went to it. It was online, actually. I did it. We were doing all these clearing of our limiting beliefs through tapping and EMDR. I don't know if you're familiar with these practices.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were clearing all our limiting beliefs, inputting positive beliefs, and I would say literally it like 6 months after, like my whole thought process started shifting. And 6 months after that, I was able to finally settle this 6-year lawsuit and sell my business and my houses and everything and pay off all the bills, all the $1 million plus for this legal suit I was in. And I ended up spending $1 million on a $350,000 case. So it was, it was crazy. But the retreats and being exposed and tapping into my curiosity and being exposed to new practices really allowed me to embrace something I never would have embraced before. And it actually changed and shifted the trajectory of my life. So ever since that retreat, I just kept going to retreats. I've been to over 20 something retreats. And then I started running my own retreats, the Live Life Activated retreats, because I'm able to put some of my own teachings and bring in some amazing world facilitators that I've met all around the world by attending, and take a little bit from each retreat and just bring it all together and really focus on aligning our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual practice. And that's what we focus on at our retreats in Costa Rica. So that's kind of how it all came to fruition. And it was just God's plan.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah. Wow. I love it. Yeah. And what I'm hearing too, and seems to be such a common theme. It's kind of like when we get to those rock bottom places, that's when we start, looking for other solutions. So it can really be like a blessing in disguise. At the time, it's not easy to feel grateful for these moments, I'm sure, right? Because we're in the challenge of it. But you might not have looked to go to Bali if it wasn't for the state that you were in prior to that, right?
Yeah, 100%. It
Yeah.
all happens for a reason. I truly believe that I went through all that stuff to be able to share with others how not to do shit. I consider myself an expert in how not to do shit.
That's perfect. We need
I
that.
might I might not be able to tell you how to do it, but I can definitely tell you how not to do it.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, and I totally agree. Like there's a purpose behind every single piece of our life. And if we can really take a look at it and go like, okay, what is the lesson here? Maybe we're even grateful for these challenging times because of the opportunities that it opened up for us, which can be really beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I completely agree.
amazing. So, okay, so you've got a retreat coming up in Costa Rica, you said?
I do, August 6th through 11th, for any entrepreneur, coach, leader. Yeah, online, in person, whatever type of coach you are, whatever type of community you might have. If you're in a leadership position, this is a great opportunity to come and serve yourself. And it's a business write-off, and it's in the jungle in Costa Rica at a 5-star vegan retreat center, perched on top of a mountain overlooking the ocean.
Mm.
And it's really gorgeous. Some sloths. They have 200-year-old Bali houses that you can stay in, and domes and bungalows. And it really is just such a majestic place called Imaloa Institute. And yeah, we have a sleep doctor coming in. Oh, you had him on your show, Satish Kumar. We have a tantra person coming in. We have some business people coming in. We'll talk about emotional intelligence and emotional communication, how we can communicate in a safe space with our partners, with our business leaders and business partnerships, and with our family. And then we'll also talk about money and money trauma and the relationships with money and alignment, of course.
Wow. Okay. So it sounds like you're covering a lot of different important areas of life.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And we'll also go hike in nature to this beautiful waterfall. We'll volunteer with the kids in town at the local school. So we'll do a little bit of everything. So meditation, yoga, ice baths, all that fun jazz.
Cool. That sounds
Come
incredible.
join us. Let's go.
Yeah. I'd love to. Costa Rica has always been on my bucket list. Yeah. Amazing. Really cool. Yeah. And so you mentioned for leaders to kind of take care of themselves, because leaders are always the ones who are kind of giving to others, right? So it's that opportunity to kind of fill our own cup. Is that the idea?
Yeah, 100%. Fill your own cup, relax and learn and connect to an amazing community. And also lead. There's opportunities for everybody to lead at some point during this amazing 6-day, 5-night retreat.
That's awesome. Cool. And what if someone's like not currently in a leadership position, but they are maybe wanting to step more into their purpose? Would this be appropriate for them as well?
Yeah, I'm sure they like if they're in a position where they're a manager or a department head or anything like that, or they're looking to step into that, this would definitely be something that they're more than welcome to come. They'll be surrounded by other leaders. There are several people who aren't in leadership roles now. They don't consider it leadership roles, but we're leading every day through our actions. So it could be extended well beyond just like a title. Title doesn't mean anything to me. It's like how you show up in your life. If you're a mother or you're a father, you're a leader. So yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I love that. Yeah. Thank you. Amazing.
Yeah, I'll share the link with you, and anybody who's interested can check it out there or ping me and set up a call.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. We're going to link all this in the show notes as well, along with your alignment assessment. Definitely. So
Yeah, everybody can use the alignment assessment. It's completely free. It's an amazing online tool. Use it with your clients, share it. It's there to be maximized out there in the world.
Oh, and another thing with the retreats too, I wanted to ask, because I know that like community is such an important part of, as human beings, like that's how we really thrive, and we can go a lot further when we're doing something in a group versus just on our own. So can you speak to that piece a little bit about, kind of sharing and growing through community?
Yeah, I mean, community changed my life, community and connection. And it's so important with like technology these days that we get actual human, physical, in the same space, communication and experiences with, that we're able to share that together. It builds a bond that will never be broken. And so when you're in an experience like this, a 6-day container, a 5-day container, you share experiences with people that you don't share with anybody else in your life. So it deepens the trust level with the others because you're going through some stuff, emotional, physical, whatever it might be, and you're doing it together and supporting each other. So when you're able to build relationships with that as the groundwork, then that is a really strong relationship that can only have multiple layers on top of it. So yeah, community and connection, and then next thing you know, you're supporting each other personally, you're supporting each other in business, and then nonprofits are starting. Like 3 different companies started in the last 3 retreats with the people who met at my retreats, and that's not the purpose of the retreat, but that just happens as a byproduct. So yeah, it's beautiful. Community is everything.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Amazing. Yeah, because when people are kind of on the same wavelength, there's this resonant frequency that people are going to have coming together for this shared purpose. And that right there is another form of alignment, right? So that's
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. Is there anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners with today in terms of living a purposeful, aligned life?
Yeah, I would just emphasize that it's super important to have some awareness and to stop, take a break, and then look at how you're spending your time and look at if it's aligned with what you actually want to accomplish. And if you don't know what that is, then do some work around your value system and it will help you find your purpose. So that would be my advice. And if you want to hear more or learn more about like how I changed my life, I also wrote a book called Chasing the High, which is on Amazon and Audible. And I give a lot of different strategies and tips, simple things that can really shift things for you in that book.
Incredible. Yeah, because it's really the simple daily things that we do that shape our life. It's simple overall, right?
It is simple, but we're human, so
Yeah.
we overcomplicate everything.
Totally. Yeah, our
If we
emotions.
just act like animals, then we'd be fine.
That's it, right? Yep. The human challenge. Cool.
Sometimes you just want to be a dog. You know?
Yeah.
Dogs have the best life.
Life would be a lot simpler, wouldn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
That's funny. So where can people connect with you further?
Yeah, they can connect on my Instagram. It's MDASH1. Or on LinkedIn, Michael Dash, and my emails or my website is just www.michaelg-.com. I don't know what the heck that was, but
That was like an email website combination.
I don't know what I was saying, but yeah.
That's okay.
Check me out on Instagram. We can connect.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll drop all of these links, like we mentioned, throughout the description on here, so you can just easily click and find it. Cool.
Beautiful.
Well,
thank you so much, Martine.
Yeah, have a great day.
It was fun. See you. Bye.
Bye.